Hey, a couple of weeks back now, I went to visit Beck's sister in Darwin for our overseas listeners, the top end of Australia. And we decided to go on a crocodile jumping tour.
Oh, jumping?
Yes.
Yeah, you get dirt bikes and you jump over crocodiles.
No, you're in a boat.
That's
and
true.
the Crocs do the jumping. There were 2 tours to choose from. A company called The Original Croc Jumping Tour.
Okay.
This thing's a whole lot of
A whole lot of chickens.
a whole lot more original. Croc jumping tour.
Or its direct competitor, Spectacular Croc Jumping Tour. So I had the choice.
Interesting.
I had
Great
the
marketing.
original.
Really good marketing decision there, isn't it? Do you market on heritage or do you market on really new and improved for Spectacular?
I went with the original.
I thought you would have.
Only because Spectacular was sold out.
Interesting. But I also feel like there'd be a part of you that wanted to reward loyalty to the art of crocodile jumping.
But when we got on the tour, boy, were they emphasising the original.
How?
The guy that started the tour, hello, welcome to the original Croc Jumping Tour. Been here, stated the years and months.
Right.
We are
pretty
the original.
Just shitty that someone's come along and gone,
Yes.
hey, you know the Croc Jumping Tour that is booked out every single day? They don't. Anyone can do that. Like they don't have a license or anything. Like it would have just been someone else realizing that this is a free for all.
So I haven't done the investigation, but I will delve deeper into it. But we can only assume that they didn't open the first one calling it the original.
Yeah, what was it originally?
It would have just been Darwin's Croc Jumping Tour.
Yeah, because they don't own the crocs. They're wild crocs.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't own the river. You don't own the crocs. It's basically your overheads are a boat and chicken on a stick. So if anyone can come up with that and someone to take the bookings, you've got yourself a tour.
So another mob's come along and gone, let's just call ours Spectacular. Now, might I add, it is spectacular. Even at the original one, it was spectacular seeing these crocs come so far out of the water because their tails are half a length of a crocodile. Do you know?
I do now.
So their tails are so powerful that they can get their whole body out to come up for the chicken on a stick. I'm not sure how often they need that in the wild.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because they've got the power, but I guess they usually use it for like horizontal acceleration.
Yes.
And now, crocodiles have been around for 80 million years.
Yep.
So
I saw one that was over 100 years old.
Yeah, geez.
And their biggest predator is themselves.
Yeah,
they eat each other.
Other male crocs,
And
bite each
mums
other's face off.
Mums eat their kids at 20 weeks old. If you got to stay away from your mum at 20 weeks.
No matter what.
At 20 weeks, it's like fend for yourself.
Really?
And if because they assume another predator is going to eat their young, so may as well be them.
May as well get the calories. I love traditions, but yeah, I don't know. I'd have feelings about that if I was a kid.
So back to the task at hand from my investigation. I don't know how many years after the original Croc Jumping Tour was made when Spectacular came along, but they're probably driving to work because they're like 600 metres away from each other as the turn-off.
My favourite kind of business rivalry.
Yeah. So they're driving to work one day and they see a sign saying Spectacular Jumping Croc Tour starting
Do you reckon
soon.
that's the first they heard of it?
What's this?
Because it's a small town. You would think if Sally's running the original and then Paul decides, I think I'm going to do Spectacular, Paul would know Sally.
Yes.
And he probably should let it go. Let it,
You
quietly
reckon Paul's going up to telling us, just, we're going to start.
Just quietly mention over a 4X Gold, hey, how's business? Oh my God, it's amazing.
Booming.
Yeah.
Okay. Too much? Like, is it more than you
May
could
I
possibly
ease
ever?
thy headache?
Yeah. So then the guys at the Darwin's Croc Jumping Tour, they've all had to go, gee, Spectacular starting up. They would have thrown around a lot of different names. Because they could have gone with more spectacular, even more spectacular.
That does make you sound like a second comer. So if you want to keep heritage, you got to go.
That's what they would have absolutely just gone, let's go hard on these guys are thieves. Because obviously bad blood's happened. You go, let's just go hard on absolutely the original and the best. They could have thrown that in there.
And
I'm proud of them for not throwing. You do often see people that are particularly upset throwing the original and the best.
Because he never said the best.
He could have.
They could have gone for something like original and still spectacular Croc Jumping Tours.
Oh,
Yeah, tough. Because if then if you go, okay, we're going to call ourselves the original Spectacular.
That is dishonest now.
The original Spectacular Jumping Tour is the
Then they'll be
new
like, well, no,
Spectacular.
that's
Croc
us. We named ourselves original. Yeah, okay. But you can't own. No, we're just saying we happen to be Spectacular. That's not our name.
Yeah.
I would have probably gone with that. I would go the main sign to be like, right, these guys, if it's war, it's war. We're going to call ourselves the original Croc Jumping Tours, brackets, who also happen to be Spectacular. or to go extra to remove your hands completely of any wrongdoing, you just include quotes from customers that all include the word spectacular.
The
most spectacular thing I've ever seen. Boy, oh boy, now this is spectacular. I've never seen anything so spectacular.
That's true.
So you're killing them on both fronts, spectacularity and originality.
If anyone has more details that lives up north,
please, what was the original name of the original?
Please hit us up at Hamish&AndyCompilations. I'd love to know a bit more about it. I mentioned the other day that I'd been up to Darwin, top of Australia.
Yes. And you uncovered a great tale.
There was 2 croc jumping tours. One was called the original Croc Jumping Tour, and one was called Spectacular Croc Jumping Tour. Yep. And we thought that it must have been a situation where the original started out as just Croc Jumping Tour.
Yep.
Spectacular came along and did a very good job of naming its tour.
And kind of trumped them with an adjective.
Yes.
And then they went, okay, we didn't know we were playing that game. And then we have to trump them back.
And they've gone back and they've gone with original to try and wrestle back the naming. That was our speculation.
Well, it's the only way it could happen, because if you were opening a one-of-a-kind tour, you would never think to call it original first.
Yes.
Without competition. And you could never call it original if you were second to market, because you're not.
Yes. Joining us now is Bill. I'm not sure if he lives up there. He just says he knows some stuff. Yep. And so, ahoy to you, Bill.
Ahoy, boys.
Bill, are you located up in Darwin at the moment?
Mate, I lived in about 10 minutes from the Jumping Crocodile Cruise for about 16 years before I moved. My parents are still up there at a place called Corroboree, just past it.
So they've got eyes on the tour daily.
Yeah, so they would literally drive past it daily.
Okay, can I just clarify for someone that hasn't been on the tour, and I know you have, there's obviously the office where you book and then you go out on the tour somewhere else?
Yeah.
No, the office is right next
door.
It's on the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a pontoon. Right. You walk onto like a pontoon and the boats are just sitting there.
What's the proximity of the offices to each other, or the kiosks to each other?
As the crow flies, probably 3/4 of a kilometre.
Short flight.
Up the river.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so they're not, could they see each other? They can't see each other.
Yeah. No, you can see each other.
Okay.
If you looked on one boat, you could see the other boat. It's on the other side of the bridge.
I hear what you're saying. You can. I see what you mean. But you couldn't see the office because there's a big hill in the way.
Not the other office. Spot on.
Okay. So
I actually think this is very. Are you finding this helpful, Jack?
Yes, I've got a very visual picture of it now.
So there is a big bridge, and there's one side of it is the original on the right-hand side if you're coming out of Darwin. On the left-hand side, Spectacular. Is it kind of understood then that one of them only goes kind of south of the bridge and the other one just works north of the bridge?
Spot on.
And how did they get to that arrangement?
Well, I don't think, to be quite honest, on a big tide, you're never going to get the boat under the bridge anyway.
Okay.
And that's why they've done it.
I think that's the smart way to do it.
So similar to English soccer games, there's a big fence separating the two.
Home and away.
Yeah.
That's good. I was actually thinking more North-South Korea. Yeah. Like there's a border where they look across, but no one interacts with the other side.
I think that's probably what it is. Is that the feeling?
So let's get one thing off, because we had a few emails my side of the fence too where Andy's suspicions have been confirmed from what I've seen here, Bill, where people are saying, yes, there is a rivalry between the two croc jumping businesses.
Look, there's not, I wouldn't say it's a rivalry, but it's not like it's not a dictatorship where you're going to go and like someone's going to get shot for crossing the line. Like it's not going to happen like that. In saying that, there definitely would be a, like you don't come on my turf, I don't go on your turf. There's an understanding. It's like the DMZ. Like you're not crossing the line.
Bill, have you been on both tours?
I have.
Which one is more spectacular?
Well, look, I'm not biased, and it's my mum actually worked on Spectacular for like 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
So I
You
did.
do have a slight bias. I mean, there is some skin in the game here.
Yes.
Look, they both provide great services. In mind, this is just my opinion, obviously, nothing factual here. They both provide great services. Spectaculars has its way. Obviously, they cover a lot of terrain with smaller boats, whereas Andy on the original, obviously, the original is a touch more expensive. Andy must be nice going on that.
Well, as I said, I got lured in by Spectacular as the name, but it was sold out. So I then went to the original.
Oh, obviously. Doesn't sound like much time was lost consulting the finances. An instant decision.
Definitely not. I mean, I just would have waited for 2 hours later to save $3. But I mean, obviously, it must be nice.
Must be nice to have that $1.50 an hour kind of cash to just piss about.
It must be nice.
Look, I have done well.
Wowee. Wowee.
And I am.
Wowee. Oh, so great. The territory's so grateful that Victorian money can just come up here and be hosed around.
Yeah.
So Bill, you think Spectacular, because it's got smaller, more manoeuvrable boats, allows it to get to areas that may be more spectacular than the original?
Absolutely. And the big thing that you notice, obviously, you've gone to the original one, again, must be nice. And it is common knowledge, if you do a little bit of research, you would notice that the original, fun fact, is not actually the original.
Oh, hang on a sec. This is huge.
What? Hang on a second. So is Spectacular the original?
Spectacular is the original.
Then what is going on with how are the original calling themselves the original?
So you'll notice, and you can actually look this up on both of their websites if you want. So in the mid-70s is when Spectacular started, just by a guy that was originally a croc hunter. He was out taking his friends out, and that's how it originally started. That was in the mid-70s, and then I put in quotes, the original started in about 1985. So there's about 8 to 10 years difference.
But hang on.
What is making them say they're the original?
Your guess would be as good as mine.
Bill, can I just clarify something? You said it started with this guy taking his mates out to do it. Were they the first one to go, hang on, we should charge people for this? Or was Spectacular?
I would think so, yes.
Who was ticketed first is the question.
So they could be if you're just building going on a roller coaster with your mates, and then
it must be nice.
I mean, if you're doing the roller coaster in the backyard, obviously your Victorian money must be doing all right for you.
Yeah, I agree. It must be very nice. Accidentally built Disneyland for yourself. We should charge for this.
I suppose that's what's happened.
Hang on, but aren't you saying, Bill, that the Spectacular guy was going out with his mates in the 70s?
Correct. So he was taking friends out to show them what the crocodiles look like in their natural habitat.
Yep, just get them to jump.
Like that. And then obviously the jumping has come at a later point.
So we don't know when the jumping started.
Correct. That's the only thing you need to work out.
Okay. Is it possible?
I've said too much. I better go.
Is it? You get the sense that Bill knows too, but he doesn't want to ruin the fun for us. Okay. Is it possible that the Spectacular guy goes out in the 70s, but he's just looking at crocs? Then the original people go out in the mid-80s, even though they're sort of 10 years late to the concept of taking a boat out to be near a crocodile, they might have got the croc to jump first, and that's why they're calling themselves the original jumping tour. But Spectacular still were doing it earlier. They, of course, back in those days, before you knew about jumping, it was still spectacular to see a crocodile in the wild.
That's true.
That's exactly right.
But I think it's called a Spectacular Jumping Croc Tour.
Yeah, it is.
But then once jumping was discovered, I'm saying, Andy, in the 80s, once jumping was discovered, Spectacular Croc Tours added jumping to theirs. Yeah. But original were like, but we were the original jumpers. You guys might have had boats out there earlier, but you didn't know about jumping. And
that's true. That could be true.
Bill, thank you so much.
We need to know when jumping was discovered, really, to get to the bottom of this.
Yes.
Am I going to have to do some more research and check back in? Is this the thing?
That's better than us doing it.
Mate, if you could come back to us and tell us how the hell
or give us another lead.
Second to market can name themselves the original of something, that's probably where our most interest is.
I'm going to have to go back to my mother, who's incredibly skilled in this area of expertise.
Great. Right. Well, can I just throw another another chicken in the river here? I got an anonymous tip that came in my side of the fence. She says, look, I work in the territory in the tourism game, and they are big rivals, these two companies.
Yeah.
We've got a trade show each year, and they have to separate them so there's no beef
Yeah,
at the
absolutely.
trade show. So they have to be apart, and it's all the goss in the new Northern Territory Tourism Association. And sometimes it says here, if you use one, you cannot use the other. So like if you're booking tours for one of them will be like, well, if you're using original, you've absolutely cooked it with spectacular.
Wow.
And she
What a
said,
way to
signs
write
off by
yourself
saying,
off.
classic territory fun.
Okay. Bill, thank you very much. We'll obviously, anyone, if you've got any more information, hamishandy.com, and we'll continue to find out where this goes and how deep it goes.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Ando, Jackie boy, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but if we get to the bottom of this, right, and there really is this beef, and it does feel very North and South Korea, wouldn't it be an incredible feather in the hat of the Hamish and Andy show if we could travel to the territory and negotiate a peace deal?
Bring peace to the region. Yes.
Bring peace to the territory. Wouldn't that be
would
huge?
be something else.
That would be one of that. That's our best shot at a Nobel Peace Prize.
Like bringing down the Berlin Wall, do we bring down the bridge?
Oh, no, you need that. You need that. It's one of the main thoroughfares.
Anyway, and the last thing we've got to say is, may the bridge forever be down. What are you doing? That's our bridge, you mongrels. It was Jack's idea.
Jack
thought it would be a cool photo.
Let's just make sure we're on not on the same side of the bridge as
Yeah. Andy Jack going, I think we better go to the airport. Hey, we'll figure it out.
Great idea, Ham. Great idea.
Oh, could happen.
Haim, something that has been brewing in the background for a while. We get some
time
leads,
for an update.
then we follow them up and we're like, oh, is this progressing the story? Is it the same information?
Yep.
It's the Croc bombshells that we're getting from the Northern Territory of Australia, where obviously it was the two spectacular croc jumping tour, and then the original croc jumping tour. They refused to admit that the other two, either of them each other exist.
Yep.
But I've got another.
And then
update.
the real bombshell was the piece of information, and we won't go into it here, but just to quickly recap, that Original was the second business in the market. So very rare you would think for the second business to name themselves Original. They obviously felt they did have a claim to the originality of the idea of holding chickens out on sticks to make crocodiles jump.
Because you're right. And it all came about because if you see spectacular croc jumping tours, you know they're second to market.
Yeah. And this is where this is coming. This is where the bad blood starts, by them both going, hey, we thought of this idea. Where we've got claim to this.
Got an email from a person called the Territory Informer. So, anonymous. Boys, I work for the NT Government Parks and Wildlife Commission. So,
Okay, this is what we wanted. Someone high up.
I've got someone on the inside.
And someone neutral for the first time.
Yeah, that's true.
Or so we hope, Jack, because I hate to wake up your naivety, but sometimes those in government are not always neutral, my friend.
He goes, I've looked at our records. We issue licenses for croc tours to operate.
Correct.
So he knows. And back in the day, things got so bad between the operators, we had to officially step in and mediate.
So there already has been peace talks between these companies. Because, again, to bring people up to speed, we were hoping to perhaps win a Nobel Peace Prize, if needed, by getting everyone around a table and negotiating a croc peace.
Yep. He said the outcome being that the bridge, I remember I mentioned the bridge. It feels like one of them is north of Bridge, one south. The bridge is in fact now an official no man's land, and neither shall pass onto either side. The person who said that there is a big rivalry between the operators wasn't exaggerating. Back in the old Territory days, there were lots of shenanigans going on between them. That's what I want to hear more about.
What were the shenanigans?
What shenanigans? If you've got any other intel.
That is an area we'd like fleshed out. It is funny that the Northern Territory is such a fun place. Like it's so much fun to visit and live there. But there always is talk of the old Territory days. Like it was like something happened 10, 20 years ago where the territory started getting a little bit more formalized.
Yeah,
like
probably
it felt like you could get away with stuff in the territory because there was no speed limits in the territory, and then they're like, all right, 110. Like, we'll come in
130.
line. Yeah, 130, isn't it? Yeah, all right, fine. We'll put a number on it, but we don't love it. Like, we want it high. We don't love it. So there just seemed to be like quite a lot of slack, and that was something that a lot of people enjoyed, having that level of slack in the territory.
He talks to the shenanigans and he says, it's now evolved to an easier, flat-out refusal to acknowledge one another.
Okay, great.
As for the best tour, he said, turn it to your end of year trip. Come up, try them both. You guys make the decision. Now, obviously, he's trying to press a little bit of tourism for new NT, but he has got a point.
I mean, we'll promote the tourism side, whether we go or not.
Yes. If we can,
if we do get up there to negotiate a truce,
you'd have to take both tours.
Yeah.
Is there a way what we don't want to start is a war by taking the one tour and all unanimously deciding that one's the best.
Actually, we should never do this. Yeah, that's right.
This is like Kofi Annan sitting down going, hey, come on, guys. Let's just agree to put aside our differences, even though country A is clearly better.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's not what the UN's for.
So we won't do that. Territory
Well, we
former.
should. Here's the thing. We obviously want to go on. We're going to want to go on both tours.
Yes.
But really with the intention that we're going to bring together the similarities.
Yeah.
Should we do a blind taste test of Pepsi and Coke, but with the tours?
Oh, that would be hard.
Like
but
we
not a bad idea.
blindfold on. So we never know which is.
We don't know what to do, or we
Yeah.
open our eyes and we see Crocs jumping, and we independently go. I enjoyed the second tour the most.
That's interesting. So the guide would have to wear a non-branded top.
Yes.
Yep, and they wouldn't be able to say where they are.
Yes.
Here, we might not have to do it. I've got an email here from a young man and loyalty card holder, Kip. Kip's a Darwinian. He's a resident, and he goes, look, I'm heading out that way this weekend. Okay, that's this weekend coming. He said, I am going to find myself on the spectacular Jumping Crocodiles cruise with my partner. He said, unlike Andy's Victorian hose of money, I didn't buy my ticket. I had to win it in a local voucher form at the Darwin Travel Expo. Very common man.
Oh, good stuff.
Because the spectacular jumping tour is slightly more expensive. Is it $1 or $2 more expensive?
I can't remember, to be honest.
Anyway, he's heading out. He's won it. He's very excited. He said, look, I would be happy to go on both in an undercover weasel-like fashion.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
that's good.
That's
Okay.
great.
So he goes, he's offering his investigative and diplomatic services. He goes, if down the road you'd like to use me as an H&A special envoy, I will be happy to do that too. But so I wrote back to him and I said, look, first mission, don't say who you are or who you're representing. Go as a spy. He said, look, I suggest that I could weasel some information on the following topics. Origins of the dispute. When was jumping discovered in the Adelaide River? Who was second to market and how they got the naming rights original? Who ticketed first? Who saw jumping first? Current beef or issues between the two? Any compromises or previous mediations that have been had? Point 8, interest in participating in H&A sponsored peace talks. 9, interest.
That's not what it's for.
Yeah, I'll tell him, don't do that. Keep that undercover. 9, interest in bringing the bridge down or permitting the other party to venture past the bridge.
Well, that's interesting.
And add to that past shenanigans.
Past shenanigans.
Yeah, past shenanigans. Yes, we'd like to know shenanigans. So I'll give Kip that info. What shenanigans has taken place? See if he can get it out of both of them.
Do you feel that, you know how we're saying, okay, we want someone to take them both and give us an unbiased, nod?
Yeah.
Maybe we should take that off. That's not what this show's about. It's more about, we don't care which one's the best.
We always choose who's the best on this show. That's one of our core tenets.
Well, I'm just saying, I think we
actually put a lot of weight on our personal preferences.
I don't think Kip can go and do all those questions.
Yep.
And then have the natural experience of croc jumping. No one goes there and asks of the history so deeply.
Well, we've got a real tourism fan on our hands.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
Let's also be clear, too, that the idea of peace talks, again, gentlemen, I bring you back to the notion that it is not deciding who's the best.
That's my point.
In fact,
Okay.
yeah, it's saying, guys, That's not the point of what's going here.
Yeah.
We've got to learn how to get along
Yes.
together. And
What is the best outcome if we did go up there at the
I'll
end
tell you
of
what
the year?
I'll tell you what this is really about, Jack. It's about getting someone from Spectacular to say, no, they're the best at Original, and someone from Original
That'd
to see
be
the
nice.
good in Spectacular. That's what real peace is. Seeing
Yes.
the positive in each other, not
Could we ever
having
do
it
that?
decided by a third party that
Yes.
you are, in fact, the best.
I feel like if we could get them together
If we could get
And
them
one
to
of them
take each other's tour,
and one of them compliments the other.
Yep.
Oh, take each other's tours now.
take each other's tour
And not go like
hug
this.
at the end.
And
not
say
do the-
something nice about it.
And not do this when they say something. Go,
Yeah. No eye rolls.
no eye rolls, no giggles.
Yep.
Jackie, you just wanted to.
I thought maybe we do some sort of event when we get up there. If they agree to come together and have peace talks, we hold some sort of party on the bridge. In the middle of the bridge, they come and shake hands, the two tours, and then the town celebrates and we all party into the night.
It's like it's North Korea, is it? It's very North-South Korea that you meet, or Berlin, really. Berlin it feels
What
like very
kind of bridge are
Berlin
you
Wall.
guys envisaging?
Basically, the bridge from Berlin, from Cold War movies,
Yeah.
between East and West Berlin.
Yeah,
I know it's probably a bit hotter than that.
Mine's like a tiny, tiny Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Right. It's like a very well-used highway. Cars,
It's a road bridge.
It's a road bridge. Cars.
Shut it
like
down.
If we're in the middle of it, cars are going at 130 kilometers an hour.
I'm right. It's a freeway.
It's quite a.
I still like it, Jack. Though I still like the idea that maybe meet under the bridge. Can we do that
Oh,
and
yeah.
bury a hatchet under?
Well, that's where the Crocs live. It's actually both ways. It's dangerous,
infested.
but I actually think I'd prefer on top of
on
the
top
bridge.
of. At least you can see him going. Yep. But I like that's the symbolic. That's the symbolism we're after.
It needs to be
Jack.
somewhere that is neutral territory.
That's the outcome you want to see. But first, Kip, let's get an answer to all those questions from Kip. He'll
And
give
can
us a
you ask
report.
Kip to do this as well, Ham? As soon as he gets off, I know we're not huge on voice notes here, but as soon as he gets off one of them,
Give us a report. Field
just give
report.
us a quick 1 minute, and then because I want the immediate impact of that tour, and then as soon as he gets the other one, same thing, immediate
Smart.
first impressions.
Smart.
Great stuff. Haim, we obviously have to talk about Kip, your insider, your asset. Who,
Trouble in the North.
Yeah, who was going to head to both Spectacular Croc Jumping Tour and the original Croc Jumping Tour to see if he could find out any more about the shenanigans that have gone up there.
As the Croc Wars drag on, and they are first of all, they are Croc Wars and they are dragging on. They're sort of locked in a stalemate, a very tense environment up in the north, on the river. And it was discovered by you.
Mm-hmm.
You thought you were going for a holiday. You accidentally walked into a small business war.
Yeah.
And Kip, where we left him, was going on both tours.
Yes.
He's done it. He's got in contact. Now, he's infiltrated both tours
Yes.
under the very clever method of paying to go on both. So it's not James Bond level stuff,
No.
obviously. Like, good God, Bond, how did you get into the embassy? I rang the doorbell and I joined the tour. Brilliant. But he's done it. He's assessed them. We're going to chat to him in a second, but I want you to I asked him for some voice memos and he gave a very, very detailed report, actually several minutes long.
Okay.
Very funny, very thorough. I've just isolated a little bit here to play for you to give you an idea of how seriously he was taking this covert mission to assess the state of the war, the Croc Wars that are going on, and to give you an idea of the dangers faced by us, sitting here at HQ. We don't face the dangers, but we're sending operatives, obviously, to the front line.
Yep.
It's nice to understand the dangers they face. Have a listen.
Ahoy boys, number 6, that's the mole, reporting from the car. As you move through Original, there's what appears to be well-established infrastructure. We walked into one of those buildings to collect our tickets, which were booked under 2 passenger names of Jack Weaselp, and my co-investigator, Han Molan. Now, obviously, we don't have Gmail accounts with those names, so when they asked who Kip was, I had to evade and say, look, if friends booked those tickets, I'm Jack Weaselp.
So from the get-go, right, they're
we had a
being
professional.
questioned. There's heat
Yes.
on them. So really amazing work by Kip to get through the defences of both companies.
Yep.
And he now joins us on the line to give us the full report.
Can I start off? Sorry, Kip, ahoy to you.
Ahoy, boys.
Can I state this from the top? And I think I'm speaking on behalf of our show, Ham. Correct me if I'm wrong. We are not out to establish which one is better. Right. They both exist. They're both great.
Yep. That will never end the war. What
we're wanting to do is establish peace and find out what's gone on and can it be mended.
Yep.
And that's where Kip came in. We're hearing that the two of them don't even recognise that the other one exists at the moment. Yep. And they're just up the road, and there is a bridge in the middle that separates them, and neither company can cross under the bridge. That's where the territory, similar to a crocodile, that's where their territories start and end.
Now, Kip, here's the fascinating thing from your report, and I'll let you elaborate. There is some crossing of the bridge going on.
There is, and yeah, so I think Bill was on the show previously, reported that it's a checkpoint Charlie North-South Korea type zone. Almost immediately, Original revealed that they've got infrastructure north of the bridge. And even just eyeballing it, you can see even on a high tide, boats and water quite easily getting underneath that bridge. So absolutely boats can and reportedly do go north and south.
So is it Original launching incursions into Spectacular's territory, or is it both sides going into each other's territory?
Your word incursion, Ham, not mine, but Original.
So it sounds like.
Original, what they said to me was they're happy where they are, but they do go north from time to time.
Yep.
Spectacular only went up north from what I could see.
Do you get the feeling from Spectacular that when Original does go north of the bridge, that's kicking the hornet's nest a bit, and Spectacular doesn't like that?
That's the feeling on the water, Ham. Yeah.
So to bring it up to speed, Original, you would think, is the original croc jumping tour because it has it in the name, but it's been the allegation has been that Spectacular are actually the original.
Yeah, and then Original call themselves Original to muddy the water.
Yeah.
And I think really if we're to negotiate a peace in the north, that's what discussions will come down to. Honing in on where the beef is.
Yep.
Then obviously not putting it on a stick over crocodiles because they'll jump up and eat the beef. But honing in on where the problem is and getting some sort of an agreement around that.
Correct.
Have you heard of any clandestine behaviour between them over the years? Like in the last 40 years, has there been any wrongdoings that make it very difficult for us to kind of land peace?
Look, when I accepted the brief, I did start talking to a few unnamed sources, and those sources have reported to me that in around the COVID times, there were some ported dealings and shenanigans with signs.
Oh,
so
the defacing of signs or...
The defacing of signs, allegedly.
Okay.
Like, for instance, and I'm not saying this happened, but it might have been a thing that you do to... I don't know, put a bra on one of the crocodiles or something, or to have a speech bubble coming out of the crocodile on Spectacular sign saying, I'd rather go to Original or something like that.
Something like that.
And these were all reported on a territory masthead, reporting on these shenanigans, and then the trail goes cold.
All right.
The newspaper lead is an interesting one. I think we talked to someone at the newspaper to get a bit of a lay of the land.
I've got one more truth bomb if I can drop it.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. You don't want to walk out with an unexploded bomb.
So I'm on the boat of Original. We asked when was jumping discovered, and he says, this is on Original, 38 or 39 years ago, which puts them at 1984 and 1985. And then a fellow tourist follows up with, his interest was piqued, and he says, I suppose you discovered that by chance then? And the tour operator goes, probably.
That's
which was the only chink in the armour for Original that I could find.
Okay.
So
I couldn't quite follow it.
No, because the other one, I think what Kip's saying is, or did you hear that Spectacular was doing it? Because remember, Original were second to market.
That was the first bit of information which we thought, wow, that's blown it wide open. They're claiming 1984, 1985, so we got to get down to Spectacular.
And find
so we
out.
Get over to Spectacular.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is the part I needed because I was like, I haven't heard the bomb.
yeah.
So before we even get on the boat, Spectacular, great setup. and they have these 4 pillars of information placards or like information signs.
Mm-hmm.
So on one of these pillars, it reads, Hauraki Aboriginal Corporation bought Spectacular in 2015, which is described on the pillar information post as a then 2-decade-old business.
In 2015.
2015. So
which
that
takes
puts it at
them
90.
to 1995.
Some 10
So
years.
Spectacular are admitting on their pillar they're from 95.
That's what it looks like.
But yet
Mm.
we've heard evidence of them saying it was the 70s where they started jumping.
Allegedly.
Because now in this situation, what Kibbs found out is you take this testimony and you go, okay, that does put original first.
Yeah. Some 10
And
years.
I think what you get from all this, you know, they said, she said, the post said, the pillar said this, the plaque said that. You realise that this is where the beef comes from.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of conflicting stories. There's, you know, then you mix it in with folk tales and the lore of the territory. And you begin to understand where the grievances come from, don't you?
I agree. Okay.
Here's what we're going to keep. First of all, you win the golden feather of truth and investigation
Yes.
from me personally, and that's the highest award I can hand out.
Yep.
So you've got that locked away.
Thank you.
Tell me what you think about this, Ando.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked to someone at the newspaper.
Yeah.
Then I think we're going to have a framework of what is going on up there, and can we, as a show and a people, bring peace to the north?
Yeah.
Whether it's 2 warring parties and then this new militia that we've heard of, Croc spot tours, and you're always going to have messy factions and stuff. No conflict is, you know, modern warfare. You don't just have 2 clean sides. People have got interests everywhere. So we get an idea of the land from the newspaper people. We speak to the heads of these armies, and we try to see if there's a chance that we get up to the north and we sit down and we sign the peace contract.
Love it. Kip, thank you very much for your time.
We'll obviously still have to ingest the footage from your hat camera. Once we do that, we should have all the answers we need.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks,
See ya,
Kip.
Guys, I've got a Croc update.
Yeah, great. Awesome.
And this is the story. This is what happened. You know how we've been speculating?
Oh,
as to
yeah.
what
Like, where
happened?
does the feud come from?
Yes.
This is what happened.
Can I just set the scene a bit for you here, Ando? I actually bizarrely got a message the other day about something completely different. Well, it was actually to do with the podcast I do about fathering, How the Dad's Dad. Someone wrote in, beautiful story about fatherhood. Then goes, P.S. Don't give up on the Croc thing. You're closer than you think. So unrelated. But just it's out there and it's simmering.
Yes.
And people are thinking about it.
Yep.
So that gave no content, that gave no specifics, but it did get me excited that we are close to finding out, like, where does the root of the conflict come from?
Hit the music, Jack. So we found out the 2 owners, by the way. One guy's name's Wes. He's Spectacular.
Yep. Spectacular Wes.
And Tony is Original.
Original Tony. Okay.
Yes. This is where it gets interesting. This is the backstory. This is the origin story of Original.
Okay.
Right. Tony was working on a different river entirely.
Right.
With another operator out there. There was 2 of them. Right. And the Northern Territory government said, hey, we want to rezone this river. We don't want people coming up here. It's not for tourists. It's going to be more national park. So we'd like to move the businesses. So that's
so
when
were they doing croc jumping?
They were doing croc jumping.
Okay. So they discovered the phenomenon
Yep.
of crocs jumping out to eat chickens off sticks.
Yes. Stefan was the other guy. It was Tony and Stefan. Stefan's River Safari, it was called. He was the very first guy to do the croc tours, apparently. He had a wooden boat and it had a lot of problems with sinking. So that was
that's a terrible thing to do.
Sinky
really
Stefan.
added some adrenaline, apparently, to the croc
That is.
tour.
That's spectacular for a whole different reason.
So Tony and Stefan both move to the current site at Adelaide River.
Okay.
Tony wanted it all.
Right. This is original Tony.
This is the original
Yeah.
Tony.
So is this why he called it original?
Tony just went across to Stefan and said, hey, I just want the whole thing. I don't want you here as well.
Wow.
What will it take? And Stefan said, no. I love croc jumping.
Yeah. Stubborn Stefan.
And then Tony said, everyone has a price. And Stefan said, okay, $1 million. This is in the 70s. Tony went and got $1 million
No way.
with finances, came back and said, here's your meal now, piss off.
Right, bought the river. Bought the
river.
operational license for the river.
So
Well, basically just bought the turf.
Stefan, I'm not sure
Bought
if
the
it was
turf. I
Stefan
mean,
that
by the
bought-
way, off no one. I mean, he just bought it. He just basically made it so Stefan couldn't operate there.
Well, he just said, yep. And so,
Did he get the sinky wooden boat as well?
well, I'm not sure the particulars
Bit of a deal
of the deal.
sweetener.
But that meant Tony had the only croc jumping spot. And that's why it wasn't called original. It was just the only one. And it was on the Adelaide River.
So, yeah, it would have been called something else, just like croc jumping.
Then came Spectacular and started one up a bit further up the river.
It wasn't Stefan in a nose and mustache disguise, was it?
Tony's spent $1 million already trying to buy out the whole thing. He can't offer the same deal to this new mob, Spectacular, and hence the bad blood. He's that annoyed that he bought someone else out and then another guy came in and started their own.
That's where it comes from. Now, did Spectacular know about this?
Great question.
Because they could have just seen a river with an idea and a business that's doing well and gone, look, there could be room for 2 boats on there.
Well, they obviously saw an idea doing well and said, yeah, there could be room.
They might have.
But that is where the beef or the dangling chicken comes from when it comes to Tony versus Spectacular.
So we don't quite know. So in that interim period after he's paid the $1 million, you've got Tony operating out there and it's probably just called Croc Jumping Tours because he would have no reason to call it the original.
No.
Then Spectacular have come along
Yep.
and gone, this does contradict an earlier version where we heard Spectacular were first, but Spectacular comes along and they go, we're doing it too,
Yep.
calling themselves Spectacular. And then that probably forced the original to rename. So the name original was second, and so
Yes.
Spectacular predates the name original,
Yes.
but as the operator, Tony was there the whole time.
Yep.
Would that make sense?
I think that makes sense. I
But
think
that's why maybe we've got this idea that original was named second.
yes,
Yeah.
it would have been named second because
Yeah.
you don't change.
You're clarifying.
You're clarifying. Yes.
Yep.
So Tony's harder to get onto. I just want to put that to you guys. I mean, we still plan. Are we still planning on going up to try?
I think this gives us even more reason because now I've never felt so far away from the issue. I would like to get Blunstons on the ground up there.
Yeah. All right. Well, keep them coming in, guys. Let's see if we can find someone else to verify that naming thing that you had. That naming the qualifying, because there must have been some kind of issue there for the.
I mean, $1 million does buy you 5 decades of gripe.
Yep.
That's still 20 grand a year of displeasure. If it's been 50 years.
Yes.
So I want to know a bit more about the Spectacular side, I guess.
Okay.
Like, are they there going, oh, hey, mate, we like,
So is
how
that
are we to know?
Yeah, how are we to know? I think that's the thing. I think Spectacular are sitting there
Because
going,
it is a different crime than if Stefan had just come back and gone,
yes.
I spent it. I'm sorry, mate, I lost the mill. I'm back just doing what I did before. But
No, from what I
it's
can
not
gather,
Stefan.
it's not Stefan.
He just took off.
Yep.
Okay. This is good, Ando. This is ripe for a peace deal.